The explosions came without warning. Quinn Carter hit the ground as the transport's shields collapsed in a shower of sparks and screaming metal. Around her, the Kelthine escorts shrieked in their high-pitched dialect, scrambling for cover as plasma rounds tore through the convoy. She rolled behind a cargo container, her rifle already in hand, eyes scanning the tree line 200 meters out. "Contact left! Vrek warriors, at least 20! Commander Valus shouted, his blue-scaled face pale with fear. The Kelthine were excellent strategists, brilliant engineers, but they'd evolved on a world with 3 suns. Darkness was their nightmare. Quinn counted 6 muzzle flashes in the forest, not 20. Closer to 30. The Vrek were nocturnal ambush specialists, their black exoskeletons nearly invisible in low light. They'd waited until the twin suns of Verath, 9 dipped below the horizon, that brief window before the base lights activated. Then the lights died, every single one. The convoy, the road, the distant checkpoint, everything went black. Someone had cut the power grid. The Kelthine screams turned to pure terror. In the sudden darkness, Quinn heard them firing wildly, their weapons painting desperate streaks across the night. They couldn't see. Their species needed light, like humans needed oxygen. But Quinn could see just fine. Her eyes adjusted in seconds, the starlight and distant moon providing enough illumination to paint the world in shades of gray. She could make out the tree line, the shapes of her panicking squadmates, and the advancing Vrek warriors moving with lethal confidence through the shadows. Evolution was a funny thing. Humans had crawled out of Africa's darkness, hunted at dusk and dawn, survived by reading the night. Her ancestors had been persistent predators who chased prey until it collapsed, using nothing but endurance and the ability to track in any light. Those skills were written in her DNA. A Vrek warrior emerged from the darkness, his blade raised toward Valus. Quinn squeezed the trigger twice. The creature dropped without a sound. She moved immediately, changing position before the muzzle flash could give her away. Another Vrek appeared on her right, and she put a round through its chest before it could react. "Quinn! I can't see them!" Valus called out, his voice cracking. "Stay down and stop shooting," she commanded, her voice steady. "You're wasting ammo and showing them where you are." She could hear them now, really hear them. The soft clicking of Vrek mandibles, the whisper of their footsteps on dirt, the subtle displacement of air as they moved. Humans had evolved to hunt in silence, to listen for the snap of a twig or the rustle of grass. Every sound told her a story. 3 Vrek were flanking left, trying to circle behind the convoy. 2 more approached from the right. Quinn moved like water, flowing between positions, her boots silent on the ground. She'd grown up in Detroit, played hide-and-seek in abandoned buildings, learned to move without sound. Those childhood games had become survival skills. She dropped the first flanker with a headshot, then pivoted and took down his companion before the body hit the ground. The night was her element. She was the thing in the darkness that other things should fear. A Vrek commander barked orders in the tree line, trying to reorganize his scattered forces. Quinn smiled coldly. They'd expected easy prey, terrified aliens stumbling blind in the dark. They hadn't expected a human. She counted heartbeats, measured distances by sound, and began to hunt in earnest. The Vrek had made a fundamental mistake. They'd assumed darkness belonged to them alone. Quinn moved through the battlefield like a ghost, her weapon an extension of her will. A Vrek warrior stepped into her path and she struck him with her rifle stock, feeling bone crack under the impact. She pivoted, fired 3 rounds into another attacker, then rolled as plasma fire scorched the air where she'd been standing. The enemy couldn't see her? Not really. They were shooting at sounds, at shadows, at phantoms. She circled wide, flanking the Vrek position. Their commander was still barking orders, frustrated and confused. His warriors were dying, and he couldn't understand why. Quinn could hear the doubt creeping into his voice, the fear. She'd killed 12 of his soldiers in 4 minutes, and he had no idea where she was. A young Vrek, barely out of adolescence by the look of his small frame, stumbled past her position. Quinn let him go. He was running, not fighting. She had no quarrel with runners. But his commander was a different story. She tracked the voice, measured the distance, and began her approach. The other Vrek were pulling back now, confused and demoralized. Their perfect ambush had turned into a massacre. Quinn found the commander crouched behind a fallen tree, trying to rally his forces through a comm device. She stepped out of the shadows behind him and pressed her rifle against the back of his head. He froze, mandibles clicking in shock. "Call them off," she said quietly in Vrek dialect. She had learned it during her years as a mercenary. Know your enemy, know their language, know how they think. The commander hesitated, then slowly raised his comm device. "Retreat," he said, his voice hollow. "Fall back to the rally point." Quinn heard them withdraw, their footsteps fading into the forest. She kept her weapon trained on the commander as the sounds of battle died away. In the distance, emergency lights were finally flickering on, bathing the convoy in harsh white illumination. Her Kelthine squadmates were safe, huddled behind their vehicles, staring at the bodies scattered across the killing ground. Valis emerged from cover, his eyes wide as he took in the scene. 14 dead Vrek warriors, and Quinn standing over their commander like an avenging spirit. "How?" he whispered. "How did you see them?" Quinn shrugged, keeping her rifle steady. "Humans evolved in the dark," she said simply. "We're daylight creatures who learn to hunt at night. It's in our blood." She looked at the Vrek commander. "Who sent you?" The creature's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. "You've made powerful enemies, human. The Queen's rivals will not forget this." Then he bit down hard, and Quinn saw the poison capsule too late. The commander convulsed once and went still. Valis approached slowly, his scales still pale. "The Queen needs to know about this," he said. "An assassination attempt on her diplomatic convoy coordinated with the power grid." He looked at Quinn with something like awe. "And a human who fights better in darkness than the Vrek themselves." Quinn said nothing. She was already scanning the tree line, weapon ready, because the night was long and enemies could still be watching. She'd saved them, yes, but the real question was why someone wanted them dead in the first place. And that answer, she suspected, was going to be far more dangerous than any ambush. The summons came 3 days later. Quinn stood in the grand hall of Queen Ashara's palace, feeling distinctly out of place among the gleaming crystal architecture and well-dressed courtiers. The Kelthine queen sat on a throne that seemed to be carved from a single massive gemstone, her scales shimmering gold and blue in the light. She was beautiful in an alien way, her features sharp and regal, her eyes intelligent and calculating. "Quinn Carter," the queen said, her voice carrying easily across the hall. "The human who slaughtered an elite Vrek strike team in total darkness. My commanders tell me it should have been impossible." Quinn kept her expression neutral. "Why? I did what was necessary to protect my squad, Your Majesty." "Necessary," the queen repeated, a hint of amusement in her tone. "Commander Valis tells me you moved through the darkness like you owned it. That you hunted the Vrek the way they hunt others." She leaned forward, her eyes intense. "I have need of such skills." A murmur rippled through the assembled courtiers. Quinn noticed several of them exchanging glances, some hostile, others calculating. Politics. She hated politics. "The attack on your convoy was not random," Queen Ashara continued. "Faction leader Morath seeks to destabilize my rule. He believes humans are weak, that hiring your kind as mercenaries makes me appear desperate." Her mandibles curved in what Quinn had learned was a Kelthine smile. "You proved him wrong. I want you as my personal champion." The hall erupted in protest. A massive Kelthine warrior stepped forward, his scales dark red, his body heavily scarred. "Your Majesty, I am your champion. This human has no right to that title." "Drax speaks truth," a thin courtier added, his voice oily. "The human won a single skirmish, luck perhaps, or Vrek incompetence. She has not proven herself worthy of such an honor." Quinn watched the queen's face carefully. This was a test, she realized. The assassination attempt had forced Ashara's hand, and now she needed to consolidate power. A human champion would send a message, but only if Quinn could back it up. What are the terms? Quinn asked, cutting through the protests. Queen Ashara's smile widened. Trial by combat. You against Drax, my current champion. If you win, the position is yours. If you lose, she paused meaningfully, you leave Verath, 9, and never return. Drax laughed, a harsh barking sound. I will crush her bones to powder, your majesty. This is beneath me. Quinn studied him. He was massive, easily 300 pounds of muscle and armored scales, with centuries of combat experience written in his scars. In a straight fight, he'd destroy her, but she hadn't survived 7 years as a mercenary by fighting fair. I accept, she said, on one condition. The Queen raised an eyebrow. You are bold to make demands, human. The fight takes place in the traditional arena, Quinn said, her mind racing, with traditional rules, including the darkness trials. The courtiers fell silent. Drax's expression shifted to uncertainty. The darkness trials were an ancient Kelthine tradition, meant to test a warrior's adaptability. The arena would alternate between full illumination and complete darkness at random intervals. It was meant to be a test of skill and composure, but Quinn knew what it really was. It was her advantage. Queen Ashara studied Quinn for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Agreed. The trial will take place tomorrow at sunset. Prepare yourself, human. Drax has never lost in the arena. Quinn bowed and turned to leave. As she walked through the hall, she heard Drax's laughter following her. Let him laugh. Tomorrow, she'd show him what happened when you put a human in the dark. Tomorrow, she'd show him all. The arena was ancient. A circular pit surrounded by thousands of seats carved into stone. Quinn stood on one side wearing light armor and carrying a simple combat blade. Across from her, Drax wore the full ceremonial armor of a champion, his massive war axe gleaming in the setting sun. The crowd roared, a sea of Kelthine faces eager for blood and spectacle. Queen Ashara raised her hand and the crowd fell silent. Let the trial begin, she declared. May the worthy prevail. The lights blazed to full intensity, illuminating every corner of the arena. Drax charged immediately, his axe whistling through the air. Quinn dove and rolled, feeling the weapon pass inches from her head. He was fast for his size, faster than she'd expected. She came up running, circling, buying time. Drax pursued relentlessly, his strikes precise and powerful. Quinn parried with her blade, but the impact nearly tore the weapon from her hands. She couldn't match his strength. She needed the darkness. The lights flickered once, twice, then died. Total blackness swallowed the arena. The crowd gasped, then fell silent. Quinn's eyes adjusted instantly, her pupils dilating, her other senses sharpening. She could hear Drax's heavy breathing, the scrape of his boots on stone, the slight wheeze in his left lung. She moved silently to his right. Blade. Drax swung wildly, his axe cutting empty air. Fight me, human, he roared, frustration evident in his voice. Stop hiding. Quinn said nothing. She circled him, listening. He was disoriented, angry, swinging at sounds and shadows. She waited for the right moment, then struck. Her blade found the gap between his shoulder plates, drawing blood. Drax howled and spun, but she was already gone, melting back into the darkness. Coward, he bellowed. Face me in the light. As if summoned by his words, the lights blazed back to life. Drax spotted her immediately and charged, blood streaming from his shoulder. Quinn met him head-on this time, ducking under his axe and driving her blade toward his midsection. He blocked with his forearm, his scales deflecting the strike, then backhanded her with crushing force. Quinn flew backward, hitting the arena wall hard enough to crack stone. She tasted blood, felt ribs grinding. Drax advanced, raising his axe for the killing blow. Then the lights died again. Quinn rolled sideways as the axe struck where she'd been, throwing up sparks. She used the sound to locate him perfectly, then hamstrung him with a precise cut. Drax collapsed to one knee, roaring in pain and rage. "You fight without honor!" he shouted into the darkness. "I fight to win," Quinn replied, her voice coming from a different direction. Your people value strength. Mine value adaptability. We survive by changing, by using every advantage. The darkness isn't a handicap for me. It's home. She struck again, opening a cut on his weapon arm. Drax dropped the axe, the clang echoing through the arena. He was breathing hard now, wounded and bleeding, unable to see his opponent. Quinn could hear his fear, smell it on him, the mighty champion reduced to prey in the dark. The lights returned. Drax was on his knees, his armor dented and bloodied, his axe out of reach. Quinn stood before him, her blade at his throat. The crowd was silent, stunned. No one had ever seen Drax defeated. "Yield," Quinn said quietly. Drax looked up at her, and in his eyes she saw understanding. He'd underestimated her species. It was a mistake he'd never make again. "I yield," he said, his voice hoarse. "The human has won." Queen Ashara stood, her voice ringing through the arena. "Quinn Carter, I name you champion of the Kelthine Empire. Rise and accept your title." Quinn lowered her blade and offered Drax her hand. After a moment's hesitation, he took it, and she helped him to his feet. Respect, she thought. That's what this was really about. Earning it, giving it, building something stronger than fear. The crowd erupted in cheers, but Quinn's attention was elsewhere. She'd seen movement in the upper seats, a flicker of shadow that didn't belong. Her instincts screamed danger. She turned toward the queen just as the lights died again, plunging the entire palace complex into darkness. And this time, they didn't come back on. Chaos erupted instantly. The crowd screamed, trampling each other in blind panic. Quinn moved on instinct, sprinting toward where the queen's throne had been. She heard the whisper of blades, the grunt of combat, the wet sound of death. Assassins. Morath had made his move during the distraction of the trial. Quinn's eyes adjusted, and she saw them. Vrek warriors, dozens of them, pouring into the arena from hidden entrances. They'd been waiting for this, for the perfect moment when everyone was gathered and vulnerable. She reached the queen's platform and found Ashara surrounded by her guard, the Kelthine soldiers holding formation but unable to see their attackers. "Get down!" Quinn shouted, tackling the queen as plasma fire streaked overhead. They hit the ground hard, Quinn covering Ashara's body with her own. Around them, the guards were dying, cut down by enemies they couldn't see. Quinn drew her sidearm and fired in 3 rapid bursts, each shot finding a target. 3 Vrek dropped, their positions given away by the slight sound of their breathing. But more were coming, flowing through the darkness like water. "How many?" Ashara gasped. "Too many," Quinn replied. "We need to move, now." She hauled the queen to her feet and ran, half dragging her toward the arena's exit. Behind them, she could hear Drax roaring, fighting blind but unwilling to yield. The old champion was buying them time with his life. Quinn made a mental note to honor that sacrifice if they survived. They reached a corridor, and Quinn slammed the door shut, bolting it. It wouldn't hold long, but it would give her a moment to think. The palace was massive, a labyrinth of hallways and chambers. In the light, the Vrek would be at a disadvantage. In darkness, they owned it, unless they were facing a human. "Where's the emergency power?" Quinn demanded. "Central control, 3 levels down," Ashara said, her voice steadier now. "But it's surrounded by now? Morath planned this perfectly." Quinn smiled coldly. "He planned for scared Kelthine stumbling in the dark. He didn't plan for me. 1 magazine left, 15 rounds. Not enough for a prolonged fight, but enough to make a difference. Stay behind me, step where I step. When I say run, you run. Understand?" The queen nodded. "I understand." They moved through the palace like ghosts, Quinn leading with absolute confidence. She could hear the Vrek hunting through the corridors, calling to each other in their clicking language. They thought they'd won, thought the palace was theirs. Quinn intended to show them otherwise. She took the first patrol by surprise, dropping 2 warriors with headshots before they knew she was there. The third turned to run and she broke his neck with her hands. Efficient, silent, deadly. The queen watched with wide eyes, seeing her new champion in action. They descended deeper into the palace, toward the control center. The Vrek presence grew thicker, more organized. Quinn adjusted her tactics, using the darkness to separate and confuse them. She'd lead a group one direction, then double back and attack from behind. She'd make sounds in empty corridors, drawing warriors away from the Queen's position. She became the nightmare in the dark, the unseen predator that the Vrek had always believed themselves to be. At the control center entrance, they found 12 Vrek warriors standing guard. Too many for a frontal assault, even for Quinn. She studied the layout, measuring distances, calculating angles. Then, she smiled. "When the lights come on," she whispered to Ashara, "close your eyes. The Vrek won't be able to handle the sudden brightness. Their night vision is too sensitive." "But how will you reach the controls?" Quinn pointed to a ventilation shaft above them. "I won't. You will." She boosted the Queen into the shaft, then created a distraction. She fired twice, hitting 2 guards, then ran. The Vrek pursued, exactly as she'd planned, leaving the entrance less defended. Ashara crawled through the shaft, reached the control room from above, and pulled the emergency power lever. The lights blazed to life throughout the palace. The Vrek screamed, clutching their eyes, blinded by the sudden intensity. Quinn was already among them, her blade finding throats and hearts. In 10 seconds, it was over. 8 warriors dead, the rest fleeing in disarray. Ashara emerged from the control room, her expression fierce. "The palace guard can see now. They'll retake the palace. Not without us," Quinn said. "Morath is here somewhere. We end this tonight." They found him in the throne room, surrounded by his remaining warriors. 20 Vrek, all elite, all deadly. Morath himself was a scarred veteran, his carapace covered in battle honors. He saw Quinn and Ashara enter and laughed. "The human pet and the weak queen," he sneered. "You've delayed the inevitable. Nothing more. My warriors control the palace. You cannot win." Quinn walked forward, calm and unhurried. "Your warriors are scattered and blind. Your ambush failed, and you made one critical mistake." "What mistake, human?" "You assumed darkness was your weapon alone." Quinn gestured and Ashara hit the lights. Total blackness descended. In the dark, Quinn moved like death itself. She'd studied the room in that brief moment of light, mapped every position, every angle. Now she executed. The Vrek tried to form up, tried to fight, but they were confused, disoriented. Their leader was screaming orders, but his voice was drowned out by the sounds of combat. Quinn was everywhere and nowhere, her blades singing in the darkness. She used their own tactics against them, striking from shadows, disappearing before they could respond. When the lights came back on, it was over. Morath stood alone, his warriors dead or dying around him. Quinn had a blade to his throat. The palace guards had arrived, filling the doorway, loyal to their queen. "You fought well, human," Morath said quietly. "I underestimated your kind." "Everyone does," Quinn replied. "That's their mistake." She looked at Ashara. "Your Majesty, your justice." Queen Ashara stepped forward, her eyes hard. "You sought to overthrow my rule, Morath. You attacked my people, my champion. For that, there is only one sentence." Quinn stepped back, letting the guards take him. Justice would be served, order restored. But more importantly, a message would spread through the galaxy. The Kelthine Empire had a new champion, a human who ruled the battlefield in darkness. Those who threatened the Queen would face her, and in the dark, Quinn Carter was unbeatable. Later, as Quinn stood on the palace balcony watching the twin suns rise, Drax approached. The old champion was bandaged and limping, but alive. "You fought with honor today," he said. "I was wrong about humans. We're full of surprises," Quinn said. "We had to be. Earth made us that way." Drax nodded slowly. "The Queen chose well. But tell me, champion, what makes humans so dangerous in the dark?" Quinn thought about her ancestors, running down prey across African plains, hunting at dawn and dusk, surviving because they could adapt to any condition. "We're not the strongest species. We're not the fastest or the toughest, but we're the most stubborn. We survived ice ages and droughts, predators and disease. We learned to use every advantage, including the dark. We became predators who could hunt anywhere, anytime. That's what makes us dangerous. We never give up, and we fight with everything we have." Then the galaxy should fear the night, Drax said with respect, for that is when the humans hunt. Quinn smiled, watching the light spread across Vareth. Fear wasn't what she wanted. Respect was enough. But if enemies came in darkness, expecting easy prey, they would learn what her species had known for millennia. The night belonged to those who knew how to use it, and humanity had been born in Earth's ancient darkness, forged by it, shaped by it. They would never fear it. They would own it. Tonight and every night to come, wherever the stars led them. The legend spread quickly after that. From Varath, 9 to the outer colonies, from trade stations to military outposts, the story of the human champion who defeated a Vrek army in total darkness became known. Some called it exaggeration. Others called it myth. But those who had been there, who had seen Quinn Carter move through the shadows like a hunting cat, knew the truth. Humanity had brought something new to the galaxy, something the other species hadn't expected. They'd brought the ability to thrive in darkness, to turn it from a weakness into a weapon. And as the Kelthine Empire's enemies would learn, when the lights went out, the real predators emerged. How the ones who wore human faces and carried Earth's legacy in their blood, the ones who whispered to each other in the dark humanity. Yeah, and meant every word.